Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Danda Brajajana Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Danda Brajajanaran Jamana Tiravana Sadi Jamuna Tiravana Sadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamanatiravana Chadi Jamanatiravana Chadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Kunjabi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Hariyudhacharya Astatarasatasi Simadas Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're in the midst of discussing Canto 10, Chapter 14, Brahma's prayers, and we're up to verse number 7, 10, 14, 7. Does anybody here need a little introduction to either Lord Brahma or the pastime of Brahma becoming bewildered after stealing the calves and the cowherd boys? You're quite familiar, yes? You'd like a little background? Okay. Okay. Lord Brahma is the firstborn living being. He has a service. He has a number of services. One of them is building the universe. Sometimes it's said he's the creator, but he doesn't really create. He just is an engineer. He gets the plan and creative potency and the intelligence and self-realization and everything he needs to put the universe together, and he puts the universe together. And he lives for the duration of the universe, and when his life is over, the universe is over, and everything gets drawn back into the body of Mahavishnu. During his life, each day of his life, he participates in Krishna's pastimes, because once in a day of Brahma, Krishna appears, performs his earthly pastimes. So during one of those visits to Krishna's earthly pastimes, he witnessed Krishna's killing of Aghasura, the big snake demon. And after that, he had this pause, which was okay. I wonder what is the limit of Krishna's mystic powers, because he has mystic powers to build the universe. You can't just be a smart person. He has mystic powers. So the mistake was he presented some of his mystic powers to see what Krishna would do. With his mystic power, he kidnapped the cowherd boys. Bad plan. And the calves, put them in a cave. And when he came back, he saw the calves and the cowherd boys, which was bewildering. And then not only the calves and the cowherd boys, but he saw each one of the calves and cowherd boys manifesting a four-armed Narayan form, surrounded by all the potency of Narayan, which is the unlimited in potencies, but personified and named by names, and then the universes simultaneously, all of that. I mean, Arjuna saw the universal form. Brahma saw all the universes. Like, how do you do that? How do you see all the universes? But Krishna showed him. And then poof, everything was withdrawn back into the body of Krishna. So he got an answer to his question. There is no limit. And he offered his obeisances again and again. First he fainted, and then he offered obeisances again and again. And then he offered prayers. That's where we are. And the verse that we're discussing, text number 7 of chapter 14, it marks the closure of the first 7 verses, and it makes a transition into the next. So I think this evening we'll be discussing text 8. But so the transition goes like this. I'm going to summarize what we're going to read shortly from commentaries. The very first verse is Brahma's describing what he's seeing before him, Krishna's original form. And he understands that Krishna's original form is the source of everything. And he states it. And he describes the form, the features of his form. He describes the yogurt rice that's in his left hand, because he eats with his right hand, and his smile, and different features, his form, and then states his intention, his sankalpa. He wants to attain Krishna. Starting with verse 2 through verse 7, there's a description, I don't know what the Sanskrit word is, but the acharyas that we're going to be reading from use, at least the translators use the word prima facie, the Latin word. Prima facie means that which is understood to be true unless otherwise refuted. But, it's like it's used in criminal law. Prima facie evidence, the smoking gun. I didn't do it. You got a smoking gun in your hand, man. Prima facie evidence, you did it. Well, you didn't see you do it, but the smoking gun is in your hand. Oh, it's a legal term. It has other applications. It has a philosophical application, and it's verses, according to what we're going to hear shortly, Brahma is stating prima facie declarations that your form, this form that's in front of, after describing the form, he then describes some of the characteristics and says it's not knowable. Not knowable to be, not knowable to anybody, not this is beyond knowability by our intelligence. And he's the most intelligent being. Then he says some other things. He says, if those who, the way to realize to some degree, because that which is unlimited can't be realized fully by the limited. Very reasonable. But to whatever extent one can realize it's accessible through the bhakti process, and one has to give up. Jnane prayasa udapasya. One has to throw far away, reject the empiric tendency to know things. And you depend instead on the bhakti means to know things, which is a different approach. Then he goes back the other way. Supposing somebody rejects the bhakti process and just takes to the Gyan process, well, they can't know Krishna. They can't even know themselves, and all they get is hard labor. Using a metaphor of thrashing chaff after the grain has been removed. You don't get anything. I don't know so much about agriculture, but I have some idea. And there's the stalk upon which the rice or the wheat grows. And when it's harvest time, you cut the stalk, and then there's the thrashing process, and the grain comes out. And then they throw away the chaff, which is everything but the grain, and they keep the grain, and they do what they need to do with the grain. Put it in bags and whatever else they do. So there's no use in thrashing the chaff. It's fruitless, except the labor that you get. But you don't get any benefit. So that metaphor is used to say those that apply the Gyan process to understand transcendence don't get it. Then it flips it and says, well, to some extent they can get something. They can get an understanding of the impersonal feature, but it's really difficult, and describes what's required to do that which is really difficult. But it's possible. We were reviewing some, you may know Bhagavad Gita 12:5. Those who worship the impersonal feature. Those who are attached to the impersonal feature and worship the impersonal feature. Avyakta asakta chetasam. You can look it up later, 12.5. Look it up later. 12.5. So now, this verse 7 takes the previous verses. We'll hear specifically verse 2 and verse 6. I'll read verse 2 and verse 6. That some who comment on the Bhagavatam say that what's unknowable is the impersonal feature. And Jiva Goswami in particular refutes that idea. It's not the impersonal feature, the personal feature. The personal feature of Krishna is unknowable. And the impersonal feature, to some degree, to a modest degree, is knowable by the Gyan process. So, the way that the verse reads, you can listen or look, whichever you prefer. The translation for text 7 reads, in time, learned philosophers or scientists might be able to count all the atoms of the earth, the particles of snow, or perhaps even the shining molecules radiating from the sun, the stars, and other luminaries. But amongst these learned men, who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities possessed by you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have descended onto the surface of the earth for the benefit of all living entities? So remember that the scene is Brahma, creator of the universe, standing before Krishna in his 5-year-old Swayam Bhagavan Nandana form, holding a lump of yogurt rice in his hand, speaking we're going to hear it. This is a refutation that's supportive of what the earlier verses says. The earlier verses say, I'm repeating this, so it's because it took me a while to sort out what's going on here. The prima facie evidence is the statement of Brahma, not knowable, not knowable, and now it's by logic, not knowable. Because prima facie doesn't require logic. There's no argument involved. There's the smoking gun. You did it. It's the gun's in your hand, the gun's smoking, there's the dead person. Prima facie evidence. So, here's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Quote, without prema bhakti, no one can understand your transcendental form. Even those who have surpassed the material ocean full of knowledge cannot understand that form. If the men of this world cannot understand you, even if you are present before us, who cannot understand you. Thus, it goes without saying, that's prima facie, it goes without saying that no one can describe your innumerable sweet qualities, but to speak of realizing those qualities. Because that's something that he said. I don't understand this form, and I understand the happiness that you experience. Only you understand. Paragraph. Those qualities, so the qualities, it's in, Bhagavan has qualities. And the word that's used, sometimes it's Bhagavan, Bhaga, it's his opulences or his qualities. In this text, it's Mahima, his glories, Mahima. Those qualities are eternal and spiritual, arising from your spiritual form, Gunatmanaha. That's the phrase used in this text 7. Srila Madhvacharya gives the following quotation from the Brahmatarka. The Brahmatarka is a scripture. It's mentioned consistently in commentaries of Madhvacharya about things. That scripture isn't available anymore. Madhvacharya had a vast library that burned. His library burned. But as he traveled, you probably know, he traveled here and there, this is his lifetime, several times around the whole of India, and gathered books. There weren't printing presses, so he would stay at a place, and they would make him a handwritten copy. And he took the handwritten copy, along with his assistant that traveled with him, back to Udupi, and had a fantastic library in Udupi, and used that library to make his commentaries. And then the library burned. So the books that he refers to are no longer available, but our acharyas consistently make reference to them, knowing that Madhvacharya is reliable. Having not seen the text because it got burned in a fire, it's a reliable source. Madhvacharya is a reliable source. So this Brahmatarka is one of those. And Brahmatarka says, Gunai, Swarupa, Bhutaistu, Guna, Asau, Harir, Ishvaraha, which means the Lord possesses qualities which arise from his Swarup. So we're going to hear that again, but that Vishwanath is referring to it. The Lord possesses qualities which arise from his Swarup. His qualities are transcendental as his form is transcendental. And that which is transcendental can't be understood by something that's not transcendental. Material can't enter into the realm of spirit. The senses, the mind, material instruments cannot go there. You can go high, but you can't go there. You can speculate maybe something, but you can't know through the mind and senses. So how do we understand about that which is transcendental? We understand through Scripture. That's this descending knowledge, then we can know. And this descending knowledge says the form of the Lord is spiritual. His Swarup is all spiritual. We'll hear some other references that state that specifically. He has no material qualities. Because his form is spiritual, his qualities are spiritual. That's the point. Question. But who can count those qualities? Answer, no one can. The avatars such as Sankarshan, who descends to earth to extinguish the suffering of the world, can, not may, but can count the particles of dust, or the snowflakes, or even the particles of sunlight. But even if Sankarshan and others, the other avatars, can continuously count, they cannot come to an end of enumerating your qualities and glories. This is the refutation. That which is inconceivably not countable, even if it's counted, they can't count that which is transcendental. The number of atoms of Earth, it's too many to count, but it's something finite. The particles of, the next commentary says photons. I don't know what's the Sanskrit word for photons, but particles of light. Supposing one can count all those, or can count all the snowflakes. I mean, when it's snowing out, how are you going to count all the snowflakes? But supposing someone can, they're not going to be able. That's something material. The avatars, like Sankarshan, may be able to count all them, or even is said they have counted them. In any case, that which is the qualities of Krishna, they're not countable. There's no end. And that was his question. What's the limit? And the answer is no limit. No limit because his qualities are spiritual. Not, so vast, too many to count. But because they're spiritual, there is no limit. That's the point. There's another meaning of gunatmanaha. What's that? The Lord, quote, the Lord is protector of the world, consisting of the three gunas. No one can come to an end of counting the qualities of you who engage in pastimes of protecting the universe. What to speak then of being able to describe your astonishing qualities which engage you in sweet pastimes such as stealing yogurt. He's protecting the universe and he's stealing yogurt. So that's a pretty unusual quality. But it's part of the sweetness of Krishna, although he's the controller of everything. Here's Jiva Goswami's commentary. So this discussion just now is short, but it's important, so I didn't make a long discussion. Jiva Goswami writes something similar. In the previous explanation, some prima facie impersonal views were presented. Again, prima facie means accepted as correct until proven otherwise. Accepted as correct until proven otherwise. And he explains some prima facie impersonal views were presented. Now the refutation takes place with this verse. So that which is accepted as correct until proven otherwise is now going to be established by logic and reason, not just a declaration, a prima facie declaration. Here's some evidence or proof, reason and logic. Particularly, no one can know the greatness of you who have appeared on your own. The verses lead to the conclusion of Krishna's greatness in order to start another topic. Thus, this verse states that no one can measure your qualities. Paragraph. Gunatmanaha can mean, quote, the vitalizer of qualities. Now, what does that mean? It's very simple. Those qualities which were latent in other avatars but not visible are now visible in you. We heard an earlier explanation. Let's just say the quality of compassion or the quality of charity or the quality of forgiveness. So those are concepts, but they come to life when there's a living entity that's charitable or forgiving or tolerant. The living entity is the life of that quality. The quality is just something abstract without the soul present. Similarly, Gunatmanaha is referring to the fact that the qualities that are not visible within the avatars are now visible fully in Krishna. Got it? There are qualities within Krishna that are not evidenced within the other avatars. Krishna is exhibiting his fullness, and the extent of that fullness has no limit. That's what's being said, Gunatmanaha. Or, Gunatmanaha, he's a scholar, so he's giving possible other renderings. Gunatmanaha can mean of the person whose qualities belong to his Swarup, which is the same as this Brahmatarka quote, which comes next. Jiva Goswami is going to quote it in full. Thus, it means a person with eternal spiritual qualities. So, let's take living entities. Compassion, tolerance, forgiveness, charity. Those are qualities. And with the qualities come behaviors. But the qualities and the behaviors are temporary. But with Krishna, they're not. They're fully spiritual just like he is. And we're not used to that. We're used to something that comes and goes. And that's another term that's going to come up shortly. So here's the Brahmatarka quote in full. Gunai, Svarupa, Bhutais, Bhuta, living entity, Svarupa Bhutais, Tu Guna Asau Hadir Uchate, Na Vishnur, Nacha Muktanam, Kvapi Bino Guno Mataha. Translation. The Lord is called the possessor of qualities because his qualities belong to his Swarup. The qualities of Vishnu and liberated devotees are not different from this. Perhaps you know there's a nice verse that's often quoted. Those that are not devotees don't have good qualities. Those that are devotees become decorated with all good qualities. Harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna mato Mano rate nasati davato bahi. That's the Sanskrit of the verse. So, people that are in the mode of goodness, good people that are in the mode of goodness, have qualities of the mode of goodness. But as we know, the quality of the mode of goodness is material. So everything material is always undergoing change, isn't it? Now you see it, now you don't. Now some other mode, because the modes are competing for supremacy, and the material energy is always moving. It's never stationary. It's always moving with time and karma and the living entity desiring, and so matter moves. It may move slowly, but it moves. Or it may move swiftly, but it moves. It doesn't stand still. So the qualities of good people come and they go with time. Supposing there's a good person and somebody kicks them in the shin, they may become angry. There goes the gentle speech. They may say something harsh instead of gentle, like, whatever they might say. So it's circumstantial and temporary. Exactly the language of Bhagavad Gita. The attainment that may come from elevation through the modes of nature, or that which the demigods can give, is limited and temporary. It's exactly the language of Bhagavad Gita. Limited and temporary. Limited and temporary. So real quality isn't temporary. Qualities of the soul and qualities of Krishna are fully spiritual. Now, to become a devotee means, to become a pure devotee. So they can become, on the path of becoming a pure devotee. And as that happens, the qualities become the qualities that a pure devotee, a devotee carries, isn't come and go, isn't circumstantial sometimes, and sometimes not, but always. That's what quality. That's what Sat exists, because it's eternal. And Asat doesn't exist in the sense that it's temporary. So good qualities don't exist in those that don't have that pure consciousness or fully awakened and cleansed consciousness. Bhakti is a process to get to that cleansed state. So the qualities of Krishna, they rise from his own form, which is eternal. And the same is, the statement is, the qualities of Vishnu and liberated devotees are also non-different from this. Vishnu Purana. In Vishnu there are no material gunas. Again, Vishnu Purana says, the word Bhagavan means that he is complete with power of mind or omniscience, power of senses, power of body, influence, control, and beauty, and is devoid of all inferior qualities. Sounds like this Bhagavan. The speaker of Vishnu Purana is who? Parashara Muni. Like Shukadeva is the speaker of the Bhagavatam. Parashara Muni is the speaker of Vishnu Purana. And we hear this all the time. Parashara Muni has stated in Vishnu Purana, Bhagavan means one who possesses all opulences in full. This is very similar to that. It's not the same Sanskrit, but it's similar translation. It's the same similar meaning. And those opulences of Bhagavan, or the qualities of Bhagavan, are all spiritual, and they're devoid of inferior qualities. So it's positive, negative. Here's from Padma Purana. It's like emphatic. It is said in all scriptures, this is a quote from Padma Purana, that the Lord of the universe is without qualities. Whoops. He is devoid of inferior qualities. The word inferior means material qualities. Nirguna. It comes up. It's in the Upanishads. Brahman is nirguna. Okay, formless. He has no material qualities. That means he has spiritual qualities. Here's Krishna speaking in Uddhava Gita, Canto 11, Chapter 11. All superior qualities which are eternal, such as equality to all beings and attachment to my devotee, reside in me. That means he has attachment to his devotee. I am beyond the material gunas, not dependent on material qualities, and am the devotee's friend, giving love to them. And we're almost done. Sridhar Swami explains the word aguna comes from this verse 7. Aguna. So guna means modes and aguna means without modes. His explanation of aguna in this case means without transformation of qualities or eternal. Let's unpack that a little bit. Everything of this world, matter, is always changing. We mentioned that already. Time moves matter, and time doesn't stand still. Time keeps tick-tick. Time keeps moving matter. So qualities manifest through matter are now you see it, now you don't. That's Maya. Now you see it. Here's a hat. I'm a magician. I'm showing everybody in the audience that you turn the hat inside out, there's no rabbit. And then you reach in the hat and pull out a rabbit. Where'd the rabbit come from? Then put the rabbit back in the hat and the rabbit's gone. Now you see it, now you don't. That's called Maya. Now, how the magician does that, I don't know, but they must have some way of doing that. And Maya has her way of things. There's nothing, and then there's something, and then there's nothing again. It appears to be real, then it's not real. Anyway, that's the nature of the illusory energy. So the illusory energy may manifest some quality, and then withdraw the quality. Here's another quality. It's like weather in Chicago. So aguna, Sridhar Swami says, is without transformation. Qualities that are not undergoing transformation. They're eternal. Aguna. Aguna can be read, has no qualities. The transcendental explanation is qualities that are not material, qualities that are not temporary, qualities that don't undergo transformation with time. That's eternal. Substantial. Not as opposed to asat. Substance as opposed to that which appears to be of substance but has none. That's Maya. It appears to have substance but it has none. In the eternal picture of time. So he goes on. Who can enumerate your greatness in detail? Answer, no one can do that. You have manifest your qualities of a tir nasya, you have manifest your qualities for the benefit of all the people of the universe. The Lord expects to reveal the particular qualities beneficial for a particular jiva. Listen to this. The jivas are unlimited. Their natures are unlimited. They are in unlimitedly different conditions Therefore, in response to them, your qualities are unlimited. By all that variety, there is supreme unlimitedness. That is impossible to count. What to speak of the unlimited places and time in their various planets. So, is the Lord limited or unlimited? That's easy, unlimited. So, what does unlimited look like? Well, wait a minute, it can't look like that. Wait a minute, if it's unlimited, it can look like anything because it's unlimited. But some people say, no, he can't lift a hill, and he can't show the universe inside his mouth. I mean, there he is sitting in the lap of Mother Yasoda, looking in his mouth. That means she's holding the universe on her lap. That's not possible. You know, fairy tale or mythology, or it can't. It can't. But the answer is it can. And how do you justify that? There are potencies that are without limit. There are opulences there is qualities without limit. And who can understand that which is without limit when you're limited? The answer is nobody can. But something can be understood according to the disclosure of the unlimited. We can understand something. And that's what Brahma is describing. Someone, new paragraph, final paragraph. Someone may be able to count the dust, snowflakes, or photons, which are progressively finer and more numerous. Sankarshan may be able to count those particles within the limits of one universe, but Mahavishnu, in whose pores reside billions of universes, like atoms, is only your angsa. So how are you going to count that? Verse 6 and 7. So this we're discussing text 7. I'll go back and reread 2 and 6. Verses 6 and 7 show the greatest difficulty in understanding the greatness of Krishna, who is endowed with qualities. Thus, so here's the logic of all that this commentary has been presenting. Thus, the proposition that the subject of verse 2 is impersonal Brahman with no qualities is rejected or disproven by text 7. Thus, I have shown Sridhar Swami's explanation of verses 2 and 6 as prima facie view, and then given refutation. So there's the assertion that's true unless proved otherwise, and then here comes the proof that it's true. This one. This should not be considered incorrect. I hope you don't mind philosophy, because that's what we're doing. Verse 2 and 6, this is the BBT translation of Canto 10, Chapter 14, Text 2. My dear Lord, neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency of this transcendental body of yours, which has shown such mercy to me, and which appears just to fulfill the desires of your pure devotees. Although my mind is completely withdrawn from material affairs, I cannot understand your personal form. How then could I possibly understand the happiness you experience within yourself? So that's the prima facie statement. Again, neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency of this form of yours. I cannot understand your personal form. Twice saying in the same verse, text 2. Here's text 6. He says the same thing right off the beginning of the text 6. Non-devotees, however, cannot realize you in your full personal feature, like axiomatic or prima facie statement. It's true, unless proven otherwise. Then he says some further things. Here's the procedure they have to follow to realize the impersonal, although they can't understand your personal. They can't even approach it. But they can approach your impersonal. They can be manifest within them. And it's very difficult. That's Bhagavad Gita 12.5. You're going to look up later. Okay. So those are the prima facie statements made by Brahma. And now Brahma is using another method, that's the reason and logic kind, to assert or prove that Krishna's form is all spiritual, his qualities are all spiritual, and although one may know that which is otherwise like ridiculous to even consider, knowing all the photons or particles of light in the sun, stars, and luminaries in the sky, who's going to be able to do that? Supposing somebody can do that, they can't know the limit of Krishna's qualities and potencies. So that means they're in another category. It's not speaking of the impersonal, it's speaking of the personal. That's the point of text 7, and then this evening we'll go on to text 8. So what's the big deal? Why all these, like 7 verses in a row to establish something that's not a big deal? Krishna's form is spiritual. Well, how many people of this world have the influence of impersonal conception of life? I just received from one of the GBCs of China a description of what's going on in China with Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism. In Chinese Buddhism, of course, is not theistic, it's atheistic. But it's considered religion in China by the government. They showed a pie chart. Of the 1.42 billion, I think that's the number, people in China, that's a lot of people, more than half are, committed atheists. To be a card-carrying member of the Communist Party, you have to sign, a statement, I'm an atheist. Well, you can't be a communist. You have to be an atheist. And then over there is the, let's say Buddhism, a big sector amongst what's considered religion in China by the Chinese government. And the Chinese government is slowly, step by step, taking over the control of the Buddhist monasteries. There's one example in this article. We'll get back to the Bhagavatam in a moment. One example in the article is there was a monk. As time passes, there are fewer and fewer monks. There's fewer and fewer clergy of any kind in the world, largely, statistically, the Catholic Church and so on. So one monk, like a really dedicated monk, went off for 1 year to study deeply, meditate and study deeply Buddhist texts. While he was gone, the government came in, kicked out all the other people that were under him and put their own people in. They were just loyal to the government. No Buddhist qualification, that, they're just running the operation. Sweeping and picking flowers and, whatever you do at a Buddhist monastery. No spiritual qualification. They want to control the whole thing. And when the government comes in and kicks people out and take over, what do you do? If you're living in China, and supposing you're an enlightened Buddhist monk, you don't have too many choices. And then, example after example after example. That's even, non-theistic religion. It's tough. devotees have a lot of opposition. An atmosphere is surcharged with opposition, using Prabhupada's language. At the same time, the soul is there within every living entity in China, and there is a natural theistic inclination because the soul is there within. But repression is going to have its toll on people being willing to express their theism. And those who wish to share theism to do so. Now back to the Bhagavatam. It's rare to find Vinushanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye Yatatamapi Siddhanam Kaschid Vetimam Tattvata. Very rare to find, out of many millions of persons, to find somebody that wants to know their true spiritual identity. I mean, not just pseudo, but really wants and achieves that realization. Brahman realization. Very rare. And of those who have achieved Brahman realization, hardly one knows Krishna. So that Brahma is saying something quite similar to what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. It's very, very rare to be able to know the spiritual form of Krishna. And even if you can know the material, this is text 7. Even if you can know materially, that which is otherwise unknowable or uncountable, you can't count the qualities of Krishna. They're unlimited. They're fully transcendental. They're fully spiritual, and they're unlimited. That's the nature. That's part of the nature of Krishna. So he's recognizing that. And then it's going to move on to the next topic. It's a big deal because most people don't understand that. And that was sort of going back to why so many verses? Because not many people understand it. Not only in China. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, the Western world, which is filled with impersonalism and voidism. It's not like there's lots of Buddhist temples all over America or the Western world. There's a lot of impersonalism and voidism of different varieties, rather than necessarily formal, but just pervasive. So how to understand Krishna Tattva? Because if you can understand Krishna Tattva, you don't take birth again. That's in Bhagavad Gita. Janma, karma, chame divyam, evam yoveti tattvataha. If you know tattvataha, the truth about Krishna Tattva, no more birth. So not knowing keeps us bound. So it's a big deal because people don't know. They may think they know, but they don't know. They think they know because they're covered by illusion and influenced by impersonalism. Even when there's an idea that Krishna is a form, they really don't know what that means. So Brahma's making it clear, 7 verses clear. His form is fully spiritual. His qualities are fully spiritual. His activities are fully spiritual. There's nothing to do with this material world within him. Although he appears here, he looks like a little 5-year-old boy. That was the problem before. Who's this little boy? Same with Indra. Who's this little boy? He stopped my sacrifice. I'll show him. Even demigods don't have a clear understanding what to speak of us little earthlings. Although we may think that we know, and they may think that they know, and it's worth making it repeatedly clear. We don't know, and there is a way to know, and bhakti is the way to know. That's what text 3. It's a really special verse, text 3. So let's see if there is some discussion. Now there are sections of his prayers that are really sweet. They're not like heavy philosophy like this. But, it's Lord Brahma. He's the head of our sampradaya, and he's giving us Krishna Tattva. So it's, really clear. See if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for this wonderful discourse that you gave. Of course, it had a lot of philosophy in it. So
Yes, it did.
I don't have a lot of questions about that, but there was one statement that came across. The Lord possesses qualities that arise from His Swarupa.
Yeah,
And
it's important.
yeah, what I'm trying to understand is everything, including His Swarupa, arises from Him.
Is from?
From Him. Himself.
Yes, yes.
So when that is the case, why are we distinguishing, this particular aspect?
Well, it is to say they're all of the same spiritual nature, but it's scriptural evidence stating what to you may be obvious. But it's scriptural evidence stating what to you may be obvious. So you have something that you consider to be obvious. Here's a scriptural statement to support what you think is obvious. And then from that, then there's other points that can be made resting upon that scriptural evidence. There's many people, I haven't met too many of them, but there's many people out there that know about Krishna, and they have a very different idea than what you and I know about Krishna. So what's the scriptural evidence to support what you and I know about Krishna? And because there's other people that have other ideas. The unborn and manifest within Krishna, that's, a popular one. So that means the form of Krishna is material. This is Mayavad idea, Mayavada, that the form has covered Brahman. And that means the qualities of that form are also Maya. It's all Maya. So this is Brahma in the Bhagavatam refuting Mayavad doctrine. And there's other scriptural references that support it. So this verse in particular, 7, is right on that topic.
There was one more thing that you mentioned, like these qualities that we discuss about spiritual or even material qualities, they don't exist if there is no person.
It remains notional, and they don't have life without life.
Yeah, so I was, in a way I understand it, but I'm still struggling to make sense out of it. So let us say, the quality of happiness or, anger,
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
So all of these, they exist only if there are people around. If it is completely...
Animating matter.
Yes.
It's the soul that animates matter. That's the point. And the matter may have this quality according to guna, or that quality according to guna, or then transformation according to time. This quality becomes that quality. Someone's feeling happy until someone insults them, and then they're not feeling happy anymore. Something happened and the happiness went away.
So that being said, bliss is also a quality.
There's a spiritual and there's material. I mean, there's during the heyday of LSD, there was another intoxicant they called bliss.
I didn't mean that one.
Well, it's out there. But so there's a transcendental ananda. And there's this pastime in Chaitanya Bhagavat when Lord Nityananda went to the house of a drunkard. And the drunkard, he wanted to deliver him. And the drunkard wanted to give him bliss. And Lord Nityananda refused. He said, why are you refusing bliss? You want to give me bliss, I want to give you. And And then comes the statement that even if you see Lord Chaitanya walking out of the house of a drunkard, he's there for the transcendental purpose, or he comes out of a bar or a drinking place, a drinking establishment. It's there to deliver people. It's not of that quality. So anyway, so people have terminologies like mindfulness. That's a terminology that's popular these days. It's all kinds of mindfulness, this and that. Downtown Chicago, there's a mindful burger place. Okay, so now back to your question.
No, I think you made it clear when you gave the example of bliss versus bliss.
Yeah.
My question was, how is it Krishna can have it forever versus, it's a spiritual one that.
Yes. Yes.
I have a different question.
Okay.
It's not really a question. This is about Brahma Samhita.
Okay.
We hear about Brahma Samhita all the time. We know only one chapter of the entire text is available.
Yeah.
At the same time, there are references in Srimad Bhagavatam and some other places. So has there been any attempt made to recover anything? Or even how was chapter 5 recovered?
That's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the description is simple. Lord Chaitanya was visiting temples. The Adikeshava temple way down in South India, there was a copy. He heard them speaking it. He was, very attracted. He asked them to make a copy, hand copy, and he was carrying with him a hand copy. So that's where it came from, Adikeshava temple. Now, there's nothing known about the other 99 of the 100 chapters. This is chapter 5 of the 100. So where are the others? They're lost to antiquity. How do you even know it's chapter 5 out of 100? I don't know the answer to that question. But that was how it was handed to Lord Chaitanya and became known as chapter 5 of 100. That's all I know. And that's where it came from, of the Adikeshava temple. One time they had a fantastic library. And now you go visit the place and it's a ruins. There's some history to that too.
And the reason I asked that question is Madhvacharya seemed to have collected all the available literature at his point of time. Did he happen to collect a copy or something, any reference in his writings about Brahma Samhita?
Who?
Madhvacharya.
I don't know if Madhvacharya did or did not. I know that Lord Chaitanya did. And it would make sense, this I don't know, but it would make sense by intuitive logic that if it was known by Madhvacharya, it wouldn't be a big surprise to the Vaishnava community when Lord Chaitanya found it. When Lord Chaitanya found it and circulated, it was new. But it would be intuitively not new if Madhvacharya had a copy. So he didn't have everything that was ever written anywhere by anybody in his library. That's for sure. And whether Brahma Samhita was in his library or not, it's not likely.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
Maharaj, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to thank you for the wonderful lecture.
Well, thank you. Taking philosophy that's way up here and making it so it's, reachable down here, it takes a little bit of exercise to do that. That's what I tried to do. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
You were saying being in a mode of goodness in this material world, it will be hard. So I was like, we face so many things here and immediately we respond. So is it like, this is not a question, so it's so like, I want to go to that position, like mode of goodness. Will I ever go there kind of thing for me now?
Well, you're meant to go there. And the bhakti process will help you, will carry you, in fact. But it's not just goodness. Goodness is also temporary, but we're looking for Shuddha Sattva, not just Sattva, right? Because according to Bhagavad Gita, Sattva is mixed also with Rajas and Tamas, some. Smaller amount compared to the larger amount of goodness, but some mixture, always. That's the modes. And the modes are competing for supremacy. That's chapter 14, Bhagavad Gita. So we don't want just goodness, we want transcendence, but goodness helps you enter into transcendence. Okay? Okay, we're ready for online. Oh,
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have two questions. So one question is about when we hear and apply the things, even without. I feel with little effort, we'll be able to see some result with that. Like yesterday, you were talking about sankalpa. Before starting any activity. So I tried this morning. It was like, I see the difference in my chanting. So a lot of times, when we do this, immediately I see some kind of change in that. But after some time, we get into normal stage. And then when again by thought, we remember, and then I remember and I try to apply the same thing again. I don't see the benefit, or I don't see the same kind of change. Am I clear now?
I think so. So you're making a declaration. You're not asking a question yet.
Yeah, why is it so?
Why?
Yeah.
Because we're conditioned souls, and the modes are acting, and the time energy is moving things, and our mind. So the modes, time, and the mind. Chanchala. They'll put that all in a mixer and turn it on high speed, and you get things don't keep always going in a straight line with spiritual trajectory. So what do? That's the why, and then what to do. Stay on course. Get your compass out, make sure you're heading in the right direction, and keep going. With faith in the process that you'll get there. There's unsteady before there's steady, bhakti. Another way of saying it. That's the what to do. Stay fixed. That's nishtha. Stay fixed in the bhajana kriya, it'll take you to nishtha. Clear?
Yes. My second question is about the qualities that you mentioned. Qualities are any qualities, Lord versus the living entities. There is no limit. The material qualities is temporary and limited, but when it comes to spiritual qualities, for the living entity, they're permanent, but are they limited?
No. Like just take the quality of knowledge. Limited or unlimited? Happiness, limited or unlimited? In comparison to Krishna, there's no real comparison. Limited, but spiritual. But, we're tiny. All right? We're doing online questions now.
This is from Sanjay Prabhu. This is about the government taking over temples in India.
In India?
Yeah.
Okay, not China.
We all see the communist mentality also increasing everywhere else.
Yes.
How, as a devotee, should I process it?
the Kali Yuga is marching forward. That's how you process it. Take more shelter of Krishna than you did yesterday, because Kali Yuga is marching forward.
This next question is from Sundara Dinakar Prabhu. In the discussion between Narada and Vyasadeva, Narada makes a point that even if one falls down due to immaturity in pure devotional service, nothing much is lost. Acharyas like Bhakti Siddhanta, Srila Prabhupada very vigorously preached and created a lot of brahmacharis and sannyasis with some risk of falling down because of immaturity. Today in ISKCON, especially in the West, we see mostly grihastha devotees who also take care of their material situation. The recommendation is to gradually purify oneself. Of these two approaches, which is better?
What's better is what suits somebody. Bhakti Siddhanta and Srila Prabhupada were very vigorous in their preaching mission, and therefore both wanted and made emphasis in brahmachari and sannyas participants, knowing full well, because they weren't, they're mature, not immature, they knew that that may not endure. But it was for the missionary purpose. And there's other reasons. I mean, certainly in Prabhupada's time, he knew boys and girls mixing together, etc., etc. But then the boys and girls mixing together, etc., etc., didn't result in stable marriages either. The social mix and background that those young people came from, many, wasn't a stable social background. So starting is one thing and maintaining is another thing. So stability is important for maintaining. So the question is being asked, which is better? What's better is that which is suitable for the person. If one can maintain over time life as a brahmachari, that's better. But it has to be sustainable. And it's not easy in this present age. But for some, it's very suitable. There's precautions, but it's very suitable. And there's precautions for householders, for sure. When in contact with money and the opposite sex, as is the case in household life, that's a cause for agitation of the mind and senses. So it's not easy. There's risk and there's risk. Take your pick. That which is suitable for an individual, that's the best.
This question, there are two questions from Acharya Nishta Prabhu. First question, what kind of avatar was Buddha? Since he is an avatar, wouldn't following him and his words be permissible, or did he teach directly contrary to Vaishnava philosophy?
Well, I think you know the answer to that. His teachings are directly contradictory to Vaishnava philosophy. The category, he's a Leela avatar. And there's more to say, but certainly amongst the Das avatar, he's one of the Das avatars, Leela avatars. There's more to say. You can look up in Lagu Bhagavatamrita about Buddha if you like to find out something more. But the second part of the question is, by following him, won't you get some spiritual result. It depends, it depends on how you define what spiritual result is. And, a very strict definition of spiritual result is, there's not acceptance of the personality of Godhead. There's not acceptance of the personality of Godhead. So if there's not, is that a spiritual result? Is it possible? However, it could lead to, at some point in time, association with a devotee, and then move quickly into the spiritual result position. But that's a big risk. So I'm not sure you can send something else in if I haven't, answered in full whatever it is you're asking. I think I tried to answer what I thought you were asking. Go ahead.
So Prabhu's second question is, Prabhupada emphasizes how he taught non-violence, yet there are so many Buddhist teachings.
So many what?
Buddhist
teachings.
teachings which are in line with Vedic teachings.
Yes, there are, and there's some that are not.
So since he is a type of Vishnu avatar, couldn't following him be Vedic, in the sense that of all the Vedas I am to be known, following Buddha's teachings as a principle could be considered Vedic?
No. He rejected the Vedas. And following Buddha's teachings, you reject the personality of Godhead. The purpose of the Vedas is rejected, as well as the Vedas are rejected, so it can be Vedic. Nice try.
I had similar question, Guru Maharaj, about all forms of Buddhism that are presently there, everything is atheistic. Right?
Within what?
Many different kinds of.
There's so many varieties.
Yeah. So all are atheistic, right? Or
There's none that are theistic. Now, some speak of the soul. It's not in Buddha's original teachings, but out of the varieties that are out there today, some speak of the soul. They have terminology that indicates the soul, but most don't. But not the supreme soul. Then there's all kinds of where does the follower of Buddhism go? It's complicated. So in mainland China, what I've learned is the most popular or the most prevalent brand or branch of Buddhism is called Pure Land Buddhism. Pure Land Buddhism. And the teaching goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a form of Buddha called Amitabha Buddha who recognized that most people aren't going to make it to nirvana. So out of his compassion, abundant compassion, he created a place called Pure Land where you can go. It sounds like heaven, like he created a heavenly planet or something like that. And life of long duration and great opulence, and you enjoy, etc., etc. And so those that can't make it to nirvana can go there by living a life of goodness and chanting the name of Amitabha Buddha. It's part of their sadhana. And then if you're really fortunate, you get to go to heaven, or you get to go to Amitabha Buddha's Pure Land. And there you can enjoy, and at least the opportunity is there to get trained up how to go to the nirvana realm. It's like a stopover on your way to the final objective. But there's no guarantee and all of that. So, and that seems to indicate that there is some idea of a divinity, at least in terms of this compassionate Amitabha Buddha that can create a planet, and you can go there and worship Amitabha Buddha. It's not explicit of God, or, that which is the source of everything, because Buddhism doesn't teach there's a source of everything. In fact, there's nothing. Nothing exists in the nirvana conception. So the goal is to go beyond the illusory conception to the nirvana conception by practicing Buddhism. It's a little complicated, and there's lots of, there's some prevalent ones, but there's lots of them. Brands, and then branches of those. And then they, disagree with each other and all that.
There are different Buddhas also, right?
Oh yeah, there's a whole bunch. You can become Buddha. That's,
Then next question is from Vajranabha Prabhu. What are the qualities that are in Krishna but not in Mahavishnu?
not in which?
Mahavishnu, Vishnu.
You read Nectar Devotion, you'll find the answer. There's 64 qualities of Krishna, and there's 4 qualities that are in Krishna, not in Mahavishnu. Read Nectar Devotion, you'll find it.
This question is from Jack Prabhu. Is government taking over ISKCON temples too? Is this...
Not yet.
And he writes like...
There's no ISKCON temples in China to take over, by the way. But there's no place that I'm aware of that the government has taken over. But I may be, ill-informed. Maybe there are some places, I don't know.
He asked, is this the UN, or United Nations, or UNESCO Food for Life?
No.
Oh,
UNESCO.
and this is from Neetu Singhal Mataji. I was very much attracted by Damodar Leela, and as you were explaining the past life of baby Krishna, I missed to focus on
The past life of Putana or baby Krishna?
baby Krishna, pastime of baby Krishna.
Pastime. Okay, thank you. Phew.
I missed to focus on what was the color of the eyes of Krishna and what was the skin color.
I don't recall reading anything about his eye color, and we certainly know what his complexion is, like a monsoon cloud.
This is from Snehavalli Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, my question is related to Anishtita and Nishtita Bhakti. It
Okay.
looks like different gradations of Anishtita Bhakti is part of Nishta Bhakti. When one begins devotional life, one goes from Anishtita to Nishta Bhakti. Is this the correct understanding?
Yes, there's stages of unsteadiness to get to steadiness. And even where there's steadiness, Snehavali, even when there's steadiness, it means Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. The Abhadras are almost extinguished. So there's more to go when you're at a stage of steadiness. You haven't crossed the finish line yet. How we doing?
So Acharya Nishta Prabhu is asking, is Nirvana the Pradhan?
No.
Then this is Sundara Dinakar Prabhu's question. Prabhupada says that Krishna gives the strength to his devotee to succeed in the test. We sometimes see devotees going through difficulties and forgetting Krishna, at least externally, just like King Bharata.
Just like
King Bharat?
King Bharat.
Bharata. How do we understand this external setback and forgetfulness of Krishna as Krishna's mercy? Is the allowing to fall down to deepen the attachment at a later time?
No, not necessarily. I mean, Krishna is just reciprocating with living entities. If a living entity says no, he doesn't prevent them from saying no. That's their tiny independence being misused, and he facilitates their tiny independence. And that's part of his merciful nature. I mean, just, a parent wants to guide their dependent child. Let's take, a really small one, not like you two in the room here, because you're big now. But when a child is very small, the parent will want to guide their child to not, I see, across the room I see a candle flame. Supposing the child wants to go touch the candle flame, and the parent says no. And then the child will be, ah! But, they're saying no because you touch the candle flame, they're going to get burned. Some of the things that somebody does that doesn't know better, it's going to cause them pain or pain to others or make a big mess. So they say no. And then the child goes, oh. So it's like that. Krishna's, the father, the parent of all living entities. And if a living entity turns their back on him, he doesn't interfere. The living entity may say no. And he doesn't interfere. But he makes arrangements so that at least they have the opportunity to learn that they made a mistake when they turned away and went away. It's not, in that sense, because he's just reciprocating with living entity to his mercy, but the real mercy is not he just lets you do what you want, or facilitates doing what you want. It's that he brings you back to him. And misfortune is part of bringing living entities back to him. Because we don't like misfortune, we want fortune. That's it? Okay.
Why is Krishna so merciful?
Why is Krishna merciful?
So merciful.
Why?
Yeah.
It's just his nature. You want him to be not merciful.
No, that's not what I mean. It's just sometimes intriguing that,
It's his nature. Some persons have, they like to sing. Why do they like to sing?
Yeah, it's just that his patience and his mercy, it's limitless.
Yeah.
People keep doing, different things. In spite of that,
He stays in our heart. He never leaves us. He's the best friend. Now, why does he do that? Because he's merciful. He cares. Why does he care? His nature.
Thank you.